What's up? My name is Eric Butler. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back, and this is a video from the Associated Press YouTube channel titled Race to the Bottom, West Coast Legal Pot is Struggling. Now, not to pat myself on the back or toot my own horn, but I could see this coming a mile away, all the way back in 2014 or whatever it was, because I knew, even before I was eyeball deep in political news, that the California establishment was only out to ruin things, line their own pockets, tax businesses out of existence. But a lot of people fell for it, like, yeah, man, they're so cool and progressive and they just want you to have a good time. They want you to have your freedom. And, we got to stop the drug war. Of course, they were every single thing they touch turns to absolute garbage. That's literally what they do. We can see it happening in real time as businesses flee San Francisco at a rapid pace, along with the people. I don't know if they're doing quite as bad as New York, but doesn't matter. That's a completely different story. Let's see what the Associated Press has to say about why this is happening. The caption reads, even before the legalization of cannabis, California, Oregon, and Washington state dominated the production of high-quality marijuana. But now, along the West Coast, legal pot is in trouble with producers facing what many call the failed economics of legalization. Makes perfect sense.
In Oregon, a warehouse of pot waiting to be sold.
Oregon grows way more weed than it can consume.
In California, an empty grow room that was meant to house plants, now abandoned by its owners.
You gotta know when you cut your losses.
Yes. Well, look, I can assume that they have basically taxed these businesses out of existence, which I guess they thought they were going to get a bigger cut. And how does this incentivize, how does this motivate anybody to go into this business when they know that, if I sell this stuff on the street, I'm going to keep all of my money, but if I do it legally and play by their rules, they're going to end up taking 50% of it and making me jump through ridiculous hoops like some seed to sell tracking nonsense that's nearly impossible, and then you got people running away from it.
It's been more than a decade since Colorado and Washington became the first states to legalize recreational marijuana.
And Colorado and Washington were before California, right? I think California did this medical, right, where you can call up a doctor on your cell phone and tell them that you had a high school football injury and they'll give you some medicine, right? If you want to just smoke weed, just say you want to smoke weed. So yeah, California had been doing the medical thing for a really long time, but I guess technically for this recreational stuff, these states were first. And I'm sure California will take what they saw and only make it that much worse.
Since then, 19 states have followed. But along the West Coast, which dominated the production of high-quality marijuana before legalization, the market is teetering.
Everybody from the retail side to the grower side within cannabis circles will talk about a race to the bottom.
One big problem, too much weed. Oregon regulators reported in February that the state was sitting on 3 million pounds of unused cannabis.
Wonderful experiment. Oregon, unlike other states, had a system of basically unlimited licenses, which encouraged a large number of people to get into the cultivation side.
The oversupply is slashing revenue in Oregon. In California and Washington, income that was already heavily taxed dropped as their gluts grew. Wholesale prices have...
That's crazy. So they were already being taxed. I guess it's not that crazy. I guess it's actually really quite predictable. So they were already being taxed through the roof, and now that they've flooded the market, they're not making as much money, and they can probably not pay the taxes that the state is still going to want them to pay. I don't know if it's some sort of... Look, I'm obviously not a financial or cannabis or, bookkeeping expert, but I do know that these state governments are only out for their own benefit, and they're going to pretend left and right, and somehow people still buy it, that they want to help you. We're going to, all these small businesses are going to come out. New York is doing it right now. It's only a matter of time until that completely collapses, and they've gone the route of offering cannabis licenses to people of color because we know how much the blackies love to smoke weed. It's all absolutely preposterous.
Covered somewhat after plunging in California, but inflation is gouging operators' bottom lines.
I don't know any companies that are really making money. And the
Look at that. Are you going to smoke weed and work at a dispensary with a mask on your face? Like they told us for the last 3 years that you should be scared of a respiratory disease, and then you fill your lungs up with smoke all day? Give me a break.
most successful companies tend to be the ones that were able to raise the most capital and survive the longest downturn. And we'll see how long, you know, the biggest ones can hold out.
Oversupply is good news.
That was actually pretty dark. So he almost says that, yeah, even the ones who raise the most capital and can withstand the downturn are still only going to last a certain amount of time. And obviously, you know, nothing's permanent, but come on, you want to start a business that you can run for the rest of your life, apparently. But I don't know, that phrasing made it seem like, yeah, even the ones that have the most money and last the longest are still going to collapse fairly shortly. That's what he made it seem like. I don't know, maybe I read into that wrong.
For customers who are buying at low prices. And tax revenues from pot are still robust. Still, many farmers and retailers are scraping by or leaving the industry.
And there's a Blue Dream OG on the shelf over there. And
some of the oversupply problem can be chalked up to a bet gone awry.
What set up the supply-demand issue was, first of all, probably an expectation that federal legalization wasn't that far behind.
There is little movement from a fractured Congress on that front, or on banking and taxation reforms for pot businesses. The industry is urging the Biden administration to approve trade among states that have legalized the drug, though those prospects are also slim.
I'd say I don't know if I would have, really been all in or done this really if I would have known it was going to take this long for federal legalization to happen.
No, bro. You can't say, oh, I wouldn't have done this if I had I known it was going to take this long for the federal government to do something. Did you really think that the federal government was going to do something hasty so that you could start up a weed business? What are you talking about? What planet are you on? You could talk about any industry, anything, and for you to say that, well, they probably should have done it faster is completely delusional. What planet are you on, bro?
So for now, the oversupply remains trapped within the states, and that's tempting farmers to seek illegal markets across the country.
Oh, surprise, surprise. It's better without the federal or the state government's hand in it. Who would have thunk?
Farms, put in this position, they needed to do something, they needed money. They were either going to die or get creative, and a lot of people chose to get creative.
At an indoor farm in Washington, the next generation of pot is being tended. Being first, Washington limited the number of licensees and barred outside investment in hopes of avoiding a crackdown by the federal government. Now, industry players say Washington will not be able to scale up when marijuana is legalized nationwide.
We're just sitting here kind of
When do you, we already know that, we thought it was going to happen a lot faster because some loser thought the federal government was going to move at a rapid pace. But, when do you see that happening? Joe Biden's going to do it. The next president, Joe Biden again, who can't even put together a sentence. He's obviously not pulling the strings. Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. Who do you suspect is going to legalize marijuana federally? Give me a break.
Idling our capacity, if you will.
While things in Washington aren't as bad as in Oregon and California, many here are still pinning their hopes on federal action.
I don't think marijuana,
Yeah, pin your hopes on the federal government. Hold your breath, bro. See how that works out for you.
like alcohol, is ever going anywhere. How do we manage this now the right way in the future for the whole country and not just a state-by-state level?
Alan Breed, Associated Press.
Okay, so obviously this is not just about California, it's about the entire West Coast, but it is pretty predictable that when the federal government says, oh, well, it's legal and we're going to just take our cut, and, like, they're not going to be hands off. They're going to drive you out of business. And, you know, these entrepreneurs, shall we say, didn't really do themselves any favor by growing so much weed because they thought it was going to go federally legal. It's all an absolute mess. And it's become incredibly intrusive. And I have no problem with cannabis. I worked at a dispensary in San Francisco for many years when it was medical, right? And it was all a scam then, but it's become even more of a scam now, right? So there's billboards all over the place. There's weed stores. They're like liquor stores. It's completely intrusive, bro. Take it back a notch. So it makes sense as to why you guys have flooded the market, because you all went in for this green rush and it didn't work out how you planned. And of course, the federal government wasn't even going to attempt to try to help you, right? They were only going to get their cut. And if they didn't get their cut, you were going to go out of business. And now that your weed is worth nothing and you still have to pay their cut, you're probably still going to go out of business. So again, I don't have any problems with the cannabis industry. I do have a problem with the continuous overbearing nature of these weirdo politicians that pretend they're going to help you and somehow people still buy it. It's all absolutely insane. But thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe.